A lost archive of Templar knowledge could be waiting beneath our feet. The Knights Templar, history's most secretive order, are rumored to have left behind architectural blueprints for buildings that seemingly defy the engineering of their time. This is the story of the modern hunt for those lost designs, a mission that merges 21st century technology with the painstaking work of a medieval detective. By the end, you will understand exactly how historians are using everything from radar that sees through stone to artificial intelligence in their quest to unlock these vaults of forgotten knowledge. What secrets did the Templars encode into their structures, and why go to such lengths to hide them? What forgotten truth about our own history are we one discovery away from revealing? A lone knight stands watch over a chest of scrolls, his face hidden and his purpose a riddle for the ages. This image is the very heart of the Templar Enigma. The order began with a sacred mission to protect pilgrims on dangerous roads to Jerusalem, yet from that humble start, they grew into something far more. They became bankers to kings and architects of a vast network of fortifications across the Holy Land. Their sudden, meteoric rise to immense power and wealth is only half the story. The other half is their shocking fall. In the early 14th century, the King of France turned against them, leading to arrests, trials, and the order's official dissolution. Almost overnight, one of the most powerful organizations in Europe vanished, and into that void rushed legends of hidden treasures and lost knowledge. This history is not just a backdrop, it is the master key. Why would a military order of monks need such sophisticated architectural designs? Their secrecy suggests the blueprints were not merely for castles or churches. They were for something far more significant, something worth hiding from the world. The real treasure was not just gold, but the knowledge of how to build the impossible. These lost designs were never simple sheets of paper. When we use the word blueprint today, we think of crisp, technical drawings with precise measurements. The reality of a Templar schematic was something else entirely. Imagine instead a page from a medieval manuscript filled with intricate geometric patterns, cryptic symbols in the margins, and diagrams that seem to map both a building's foundation and the heavens above. This was a language, a visual code that blended sacred geometry with hard, practical engineering. The documents historians seek are often hidden in plain sight, encoded within religious texts or even mundane financial ledgers. They were not just building instructions, they were repositories of a deeper knowledge containing principles of advanced masonry, the secrets of structural stability, and a worldview where architecture was a form of prayer. This is the core of the modern challenge. These schematics were designed to be understood only by the initiated, by brothers who knew the meaning behind each line and symbol. To us, that visual language is largely forgotten, so the hunt is not merely a physical search for a hidden chest, it is an intellectual quest to crack a code. We must learn to see through their eyes, to understand why a specific angle or proportion held such profound meaning. How do you begin to read a map when you have lost the key to its legend? The answer lies in the very stones they left behind. That first tangible lead often begins in the silence of an archive. The hunt for Templar blueprints starts not with a shovel, but with a magnifying glass. Picture a historian working late into the night, their only light a soft lamp illuminating a page of vellum that is centuries old. Their hands are steady, their focus absolute. They are a detective of the written word, trained in the specialized fields of paleography, the study of ancient handwriting, and codicology, the science of the book itself. Their primary sources are the few Templar documents that survived the Order's suppression. This includes their incredibly detailed financial ledgers, the records from their infamous trials, and fragments of personal correspondence. To the untrained eye, these pages are simply records of income, expenses, or legal testimony. But to the expert, they are a potential cipher. The historian is not just reading the words. They are studying the entire artifact, searching for the anomaly, a strange, seemingly out-of-place symbol sketched in a wide margin, an unusual pattern in the wording of a routine report, or a small, intricate diagram that has no obvious connection to the text surrounding it. For example, a list of livestock and grain supplies might feature a series of interconnected circles and triangles drawn alongside the numbers. To most, it is a doodle, but to a researcher who understands Templar symbology, that geometric pattern could be a simplified, coded representation of a preceptory's floor plan. This is the foundation of the entire search. Before any ground is scanned or any stone is turned, this painstaking analysis of manuscripts provides the initial, crucial thread. It is a slow, meticulous art, demanding a deep knowledge of dead languages and medieval mindsets. The greatest map to a hidden vault might not be a map at all, but a line item in a 700-year-old accounting book. A single stone can hold 1,000 secrets, and a Templar building is a library written in granite. When the written record falls silent, we turn to the structures themselves, to churches and fortresses that have endured for centuries. At places like the Convent of Christ in Toma, the architecture is not just a product of design, it is the design. The precise placement of every block, the specific curve of an arch, the way light falls through a window on a solstice, these are not accidents. They are the physical manifestation of the lost blueprints, a three-dimensional code waiting to be read. To crack it, historians and architects employ a form of digital archaeology. They use a technique called photogrammetry, taking thousands of overlapping photographs from every conceivable angle. Specialized software then stitches these images together to build an exquisitely detailed three-dimensional model of the entire structure. This virtual replica can be explored, measured, and analyzed down to the millimeter. It allows researchers to see relationships and patterns that are invisible to the naked eye, to take the building apart and put it back together again without ever touching a stone. They search for a consistent design language, a Templar signature. Does a specific mathematical ratio, like the golden ratio, appear repeatedly in the dimensions of rooms and windows? Are key architectural features, such as the famous round churches, aligned with celestial events like the sunrise on a saint's feast day? These recurring patterns are the clues. By reverse engineering the construction from the foundation up, they can deduce the underlying principles that the original master builders followed. They are reconstructing the intellectual framework, the set of rules and sacred geometries that would have been carefully detailed on those missing vellum sheets. The building itself becomes the most resilient and truthful document of all, a permanent record of a forgotten genius. If the stones are speaking, then what stories are they telling about the world the Templars sought to build? But the search does not end at the walls or the archive. Sometimes the most crucial evidence is buried, deliberately hidden from view. This is where technology gives us entirely new senses. Picture a team of archaeologists moving a cart with a strange antenna across a grassy field, a site long rumored to hold Templar secrets. This device is ground-penetrating radar, and it is essentially giving them X-ray vision. The method is beautifully non-invasive. It sends radar pulses down into the earth, and these pulses bounce back whenever they hit something with a different density, like a stone wall buried in soft soil. The returning signals are then translated into a map of the unseen world below our feet. For historians hunting Templar blueprints, this tool is revolutionary. They scan the grounds of old commanderies, the land around Templar churches, and even the floors of known structures. They are not looking for the blueprints themselves, but for the buildings that were constructed from them. A clear, rectangular anomaly appearing 3 feet down could be the foundation of a chapel that no record mentions. A void detected beneath a stone floor might be a hidden crypt, a perfect place to secure something of immense value. Each of these subterranean echoes is a ghost, a spectral outline of a structure that was once real. Finding its shape is the first step. The next, more difficult step is to connect that ghostly footprint back to the Templars and their lost architectural knowledge. How do you prove a buried wall was built from a secret design? The answer requires connecting all the dots, from the radar scan to the manuscript to the standing architecture, building a case that is as strong as the stones themselves. High above the earth, a different kind of search is underway, one that sees through the dense veil of the forest itself. Light detection and ranging, or LIDAR, is a technology that feels like something from a science fiction novel, yet it is revealing our own past with stunning clarity. Mounted on an aircraft, a LIDAR unit fires millions of laser pulses toward the ground. These pulses penetrate the leafy canopy, reflecting off the solid earth below. By measuring the time it takes for each pulse to return, a computer can construct an exquisitely detailed, 3-dimensional map of the bare ground, digitally stripping away every tree, bush, and building. For the first time, we can see the landscape exactly as the Templars would have seen it, a blank slate of earth and stone. This aerial perspective is transformative. A wooded hill that appears featureless from a walking path might, on a LIDAR map, reveal the clear, geometric outline of a long-lost commandery. The technology uncovers the ghosts of human activity, from the faint, straight lines of abandoned medieval roads to the systematic grid of ancient field systems. Historians then analyze these digital terrain models, searching for a specific signature. They look for sites laid out with a precision that echoes the sacred geometry found in Templar chapels. Could that cluster of subtle mounds, when viewed from above, form a perfect pentagon or a series of aligned circles? Such a formation would be no accident of nature. It would point directly to a master plan, a blueprint applied not just to a single building, but to an entire settlement. This macro-level view provides the missing context, showing how a solitary church or fortress was merely one piece in a vast, meticulously planned network. The true blueprint was not just for walls and roofs, but for shaping the very land to their will. If a single building is a sentence in their story, LIDAR allows us to read the entire chapter. What grand design, invisible for centuries, is waiting just beneath the surface of our world? The true scope of the Templar vision only becomes clear when you layer history over the landscape itself. Geographic Information Systems, or GIS, are the ultimate tool for this, allowing historians to create a digital map that stacks centuries of information into a single, interactive canvas. Imagine a single screen displaying a medieval property deed, the exact location of a recent pottery shard discovery, the underlying geology of a river valley, and the precise paths of ancient roads. This is geospatial analysis, and it transforms random dots on a map into a coherent strategic picture. Researchers can now ask profound questions about why a Templar preceptory was placed on one particular hill and not another. The system can analyze sightlines to neighboring forts, calculating its defensive value. It can measure the distance to fresh water sources or to known trade routes, revealing the economic logic behind the location. Some researchers even overlay theories about ley lines, those hypothetical alignments of ancient sites, to test if the Templars were incorporating a hidden geography into their plans. But the real power emerges when you zoom out from a single site. By mapping every known Templar holding from Scotland to Jerusalem, a grand design begins to materialize. The properties are not scattered randomly. They form a deliberate network, a web of power and communication. Each commandery was a node in this vast system, positioned a day's ride from the next, creating a secure route for moving men, money, and information across a continent. This systemic view fundamentally changes what we are looking for. The lost blueprints might not be a single roll of parchment for a solitary chapel. They could be the master plan for the entire network itself, a set of strategic principles for building a hidden empire within plain sight. The hunt evolves from seeking a document to deciphering a continent-spanning strategy, a blueprint not of stone but of influence and control. If their buildings were the hardware, this network was the operating system. So what other invisible structures, etched not into vellum but into the very fabric of Europe, are we only now beginning to see? A tiny sliver of wood from a Templar-era beam holds a secret, a clock that has been ticking for centuries. In a laboratory far from the dusty archives and ancient stone walls, this fragment is placed inside an accelerator mass spectrometer. The machine does not read words or symbols. It counts atoms, specifically the slow, steady decay of a radioactive form of carbon. This is radiocarbon dating, and it provides an unassailable truth, a concrete year or range of years for when the tree that became this beam was felled. Another technique, dendrochronology, offers even greater precision. Scientists compare the pattern of wide and narrow tree rings in the sample against a master chronology, a timeline of tree growth that stretches back thousands of years. A unique sequence of rings can pinpoint the exact year the tree was cut down. Imagine confirming that the oak frame of a hidden chamber was fashioned from a tree harvested in the spring of 1284. That is not a guess, it is a verifiable fact. This scientific validation is the crucial pivot point in the hunt. A document claiming to be a Templar schematic or a building rumored to be of their design can now be tested against this physical evidence. If the materials do not date to the active period of the order, the theory collapses. But if they match perfectly, speculation begins its transformation into evidence. The investigation deepens with material analysis. The very mortar between the stones can be examined to identify its unique chemical signature, linking it to a known Templar quarry or a specific workshop practice mentioned in a fragmented financial record. The source of the stone itself can be traced, revealing a supply chain that connected distant commanderies. This is how a blueprint, even a lost one, leaves a forensic trail. The design may be ethereal, an idea on vellum, but its physical execution is grounded in stone, wood, and mortar. The cold, hard data from the lab provides the factual backbone for the entire historical puzzle. It separates the romantic legend of a hidden vault from the provable reality of a 12th century construction date. Yet, what happens when the evidence is not a beam of wood or a block of stone, but a pattern so vast and complex that the human mind can barely perceive it? The search for lost Templar knowledge sometimes follows a trail of symbols, a path that leads into the wood-paneled halls of modern fraternal societies. Groups like the Freemasons have long claimed a symbolic descent from the very stonemasons who might have worked on Templar sites. While historians debate the direct, verifiable lineage, these collaborations open unique doors. They can grant access to private libraries and collections, archives that have been passed down through generations and are not available to the public. Within these records, an oral tradition persists, stories and interpretations of symbols that have been kept alive for centuries. This is where the perspective of the esoteric scholar becomes vital. These researchers specialize in the language of symbolism, studying the mystical and philosophical ideas the Templars may have woven into their work. A conventional historian might see a simple geometric pattern on a chapel wall. An esoteric scholar, however, might interpret that same pattern as a representation of sacred proportions or a map of celestial harmony, concepts that were central to medieval thought but are often dismissed today as mere decoration. This partnership is not about replacing academic rigor with speculation. It is about combining that rigor with a deep, nuanced understanding of symbolic systems. The cold data from a laser scan of a building reveals its physical form, but the interpretation of its carvings and alignments reveals its soul. Together, these disciplines create a more complete picture, suggesting that the Templar blueprint was not just an instruction for construction, but a complex document encoding an entire worldview. The hunt, therefore, shifts once more. It is no longer just a search for a hidden chest of drawings. It is a quest to understand a philosophy, a system of meaning deliberately set in stone and hidden in plain sight for those who knew how to read it. What profound truths might we be missing by focusing only on the literal lines of a drawing and ignoring the meaning flowing between them? These digital blueprints breathe life into long-vanished stones. Every piece of data, from the faint outline on a radar scan to the precise angle of a surviving arch, becomes a coordinate in a virtual space. Using software designed for architects and filmmakers, a team of digital artists and historians inputs every known variable. They start with the foundation footprint revealed by ground-penetrating radar. Then they build upward using the rules of sacred geometry and structural principles reverse-engineered from standing Templar buildings. The software calculates the load-bearing capacity of walls and the thrust of vaulted ceilings, ensuring the virtual structure is not just beautiful but physically plausible. This is a dynamic, living hypothesis in digital form. When a new manuscript fragment suggests a different roof design, or a material analysis confirms the use of a specific type of stone, the model is updated instantly. It is a process of continuous refinement, a conversation with the past where each new discovery sharpens the image. The result is a window into a lost world, a structure that has not been seen in centuries, rendered with a level of detail that would be impossible to achieve on paper. But these reconstructions are far more than just pretty pictures. They are active laboratories for historical experimentation. A researcher can put on a virtual reality headset and literally stand inside the reconstructed chapel. They can speak a word and analyze how the sound reverberates off the stone, testing if the architecture was designed to amplify chants or create specific acoustic effects. They can fast forward through a virtual year, watching how sunlight from a specific window traces a path across the floor only on the summer solstice, illuminating a particular symbol. This ability to test theories about light, sound, and movement within the space provides insights that a static, two-dimensional blueprint could never offer. It allows us to experience the building as the Templars intended, to feel the psychological impact of the space, and understand the deliberate choices behind every architectural decision. We are not just looking at a model, we are stepping into the mind of a medieval master builder, finally beginning to see the world through their eyes. What other secrets might these ghostly, resurrected halls reveal under the relentless gaze of modern technology? A blueprint is more than just lines on a page. It is a product of its time, a response to the unique pressures and possibilities of a specific historical moment. To truly understand what the Templars were building and why they might have hidden their designs, historians must step back from the radar scans and manuscripts to immerse themselves in the chaotic, vibrant world of the 12th and 13th centuries. This is not a distraction from the hunt. It is the key that unlocks the meaning behind the symbols. The Crusades were not just a religious conflict. They were a massive, centuries-long project of logistics and engineering, forcing European knights to encounter advanced Islamic military architecture and mathematics. The simultaneous rise of Gothic cathedrals with their soaring vaults and flying buttresses points to a continent-wide revolution in structural design. And the Templars themselves were at the heart of another revolution, the invention of international finance, acting as bankers for kings and popes. This rich context transforms the search. A historian examining a cryptic diagram can now ask sharper, more informed questions. Was this a plan for a new type of concentric castle, developed in response to more powerful siege weapons encountered in the Holy Land? Could these precise geometric patterns relate to sacred geometry, knowledge perhaps gleaned from exchanges with scholars in the East and deemed too controversial for the established church? Or perhaps most intriguingly, were some of their most valuable blueprints for something seemingly ordinary, like an advanced watermill or a streamlined shipyard? These mundane innovations could have generated the immense wealth that made kings both dependent on and deeply resentful of the order. When you understand that a French king was drowning in debt to the Templars, their sudden suppression and the urgent need to hide their core assets, including their architectural knowledge, makes a terrible logical sense. The hunt for a lost vault is no longer a generic treasure chase. It becomes a specific investigation into what the Templars, as warrior monks, global bankers, and architectural pioneers, would have considered worth saving from the flames. Every line on a potential blueprint is now read through the lens of crusade, commerce, and crown. What other motives hidden in the broad sweep of history are silently guiding this search? The red cross on a white mantle was a declaration, but its precise shape was a secret conversation. Art historians and symbologists spend their careers cataloging every appearance of Templar iconography, from the grandest church fresco to the most worn tombstone seal. They are not merely collecting images, they are assembling a lexicon for a lost language. The famous image of two knights sharing a single horse, for instance, is widely interpreted as a symbol of poverty and brotherhood. Yet, to a symbologist, it might also represent a deeper principle of duality and unity, a concept that could be expressed mathematically in the balanced proportions of a building's floor plan. Even their war banner, the black and white bocente, is analyzed for its stark contrast, potentially symbolizing a world divided into the known and the mysterious, the sacred and the profane. This painstaking analysis aims to find a consistent visual grammar. The hope is that the order's public symbols, which had to be understandable to their supporters and intimidating to their foes, operate on the same foundational principles as their private architectural codes. If a pattern emerges, if the same angles and ratios found in the geometry of a cross pate also dictate the layout of a chapel's nave, then the symbol becomes a key. A researcher might notice that the arms of the cross correspond to a specific Pythagorean triangle, a shape renowned for its perfect right angle. That same triangle, when scaled up, could form the essential framework for the load-bearing walls of a commandery's great hall. This is the Rosetta Stone they seek. By learning to read the simple, public message, they gain the cipher for the complex, hidden one. The symbols on a seal or a standard are not just decorations. They are the training wheels for understanding a grander design, the first page of a master builder's instruction manual. What other profound truths are hiding in the plain sight of a stone carving, waiting only for us to learn how to see them? The most significant Templar blueprint might not be in a vault but tucked away in a private library, entirely unknown to the world. While institutions hold vast archives, an untold number of historical treasures remain in private hands, passed down through generations of families or held by discreet collectors. This transforms the historian's quest into something resembling a high-stakes art investigation, a pursuit driven by meticulous networking and old-fashioned detective work. Researchers spend countless hours sifting through decades of obscure auction house catalogs, tracking the provenance of items sold long ago. They delve into probate records, the legal documents detailing the inheritance of estates, searching for any mention of unusual manuscripts or architectural plans listed among a person's possessions. The goal is to follow a faint paper trail that might lead to a descendant who still possesses a forgotten chest in their attic. The ultimate challenge often arrives in a small, regional auction house. A lot might be catalogued vaguely as a medieval manuscript fragment or a set of old architectural drawings, misidentified and undervalued. To the untrained eye, it is simply an antique. But to the expert who has spent years studying the specific curve of a Templar arch or the unique shorthand of their scribes, that mislabeled item could be the breakthrough of a lifetime. The moment of discovery, however, is only the beginning. The real work lies in gaining the trust of a private owner, convincing them of the item's potential significance, and then meticulously authenticating it. This involves applying the entire forensic toolkit, from material analysis to compare the ink and vellum with known Templar documents, to searching for the symbolic ciphers that validate its origin. This dimension of the hunt is profoundly human and unpredictable. It is a realm where a casual conversation with an antique book dealer can unravel a century of obscurity, and where a major revelation is not always the product of a planned expedition, but of patient persistence and a readiness to recognize significance where others see only dust. What other keys to the Templar vault are currently hidden in plain sight, waiting only for the right pair of eyes to see them for what they truly are? Every discovery carries a profound responsibility. The moment a potential blueprint is located or a hidden chamber detected, the quest shifts from a search into a complex ethical puzzle. Should the site be fully excavated to learn everything possible now, or should it be left undisturbed, sealed for a future generation with technologies we cannot yet conceive? This is the tension between immediate knowledge and long-term preservation. Drilling into a sealed vault could expose fragile inks on vellum to light and air, causing them to fade to dust in a matter of days. The very act of discovery could mean permanent destruction, so historians must act as conservators, weighing the hunger for answers against the duty to protect. This leads directly to another difficult question. Who truly owns this unearthed history? If a ground-penetrating radar scan reveals the foundations of a Templar workshop beneath a farmer's field, does the discovery belong to the person who owns the land, to the university that funded the radar equipment, or to the global community as a priceless piece of our shared human story? Legal systems often grant ownership to the landowner, but many argue that cultural heritage transcends property lines, creating a conflict between law and ethics. Complicating everything is the shadow of sensationalism. The Templar name is a magnet for extravagant theories about holy relics and secret bloodlines. Legitimate researchers must constantly navigate this noisy landscape, ensuring their meticulous work is not conflated with baseless speculation. They walk a fine line, sharing exciting findings with the public while rigorously distinguishing evidence-based analysis from captivating fiction. For the modern historian, these ethical considerations are not a sidebar to the research. They are foundational to it. the mission is not merely to find lost knowledge, but to steward it responsibly for the world, both today and for the centuries to come. How do we ensure that in our rush to uncover the past, we do not inadvertently become the ones who bury its deepest truths for good? Rosslyn Chapel's stone walls whisper with 1,000 carved voices. Built in the 15th century, well after the Templars were disbanded, this Scottish marvel is a puzzle box of history. Its every surface is a riot of intricate sculpture, from biblical scenes to pagan green men, from geometric patterns to stalks of maize that should have been unknown in Europe at the time. For those hunting Templar blueprints, Rosslyn presents a tantalizing contradiction. It cannot be a Templar building in the strictest sense, yet it feels profoundly Templar in its symbolic language. The theory is that its builders, the St. Clair family, were inheritors and protectors of a lost tradition, constructing the chapel from a design preserved in secret. This makes Rosslyn the ultimate testing ground. Every technique in the modern historian's arsenal is brought to bear here. Architectural analysts have scanned its every angle, searching for a consistent geometry, a hidden mathematical order that governs the placement of its famous apprentice pillar and the curve of its vaults. Symbologists spend lifetimes cataloging its carvings, not as individual artworks, but as pieces of a single, coherent message. Does the sequence of symbols tell a story? Do the patterns on one pillar correspond to the angles of an arch across the nave, forming a three-dimensional cipher? Ground-penetrating radar has swept the ground beneath the chapel, searching for the rumored hidden chambers that could hold the very documents the chapel was built to commemorate. Rosslyn Chapel is more than a building. It is a hypothesis made of stone. It dares researchers to prove their methods, to connect its visible, bewildering beauty to an invisible, underlying plan. It asks the fundamental question that drives every blueprint hunter. Can you see the ghost of the architect's original intention, not just in the stones that remain, but in the very spirit of the place? The search for the Templars does not end with their suppression in the 14th century. Their architectural genius may have gone underground, only to resurface in the stones of later, seemingly unrelated structures. This is a hunt for echoes, a pursuit of a ghostly influence woven into the fabric of Renaissance palaces, Enlightenment libraries, and even the meeting halls of fraternal orders. Historians engage in a form of intellectual genealogy, tracing the possible migration of sacred geometries and revolutionary engineering long after the order itself was gone. The central question is one of survival. How could knowledge, especially knowledge as guarded as the Templars, persist through centuries of persecution? The most plausible channels are the very guilds of stonemasons and builders who worked on the original Templar sites. These craftsmen, bound by oaths and secret signs, formed a living chain of transmission. When a master mason who had learned the Templar way of calculating a vault's thrust moved on to a new cathedral project, he carried that knowledge with him. He might subtly incorporate a specific proportion or a symbolic layout into a building for a wealthy merchant or a bishop, a design that bore the invisible signature of its origin. Imagine a 16th-century town hall in a European city, its foundation laid out as a perfect octagon. To the casual observer, it is a pleasing geometric shape. But to a researcher who has mapped dozens of Templar chapter houses, that octagon is a powerful clue. It is a shape laden with meaning for the order, representing the transition from the earthly square to the heavenly circle. Finding it in a building constructed 200 years after the Templars were disbanded suggests their design principles did not die. They were simply repurposed, their origins carefully obscured. This line of inquiry fundamentally expands the search. the lost blueprints may never be found as physical objects because their most vital contents, the core principles, escaped the vault. They were memorized, taught in whispers, and encoded into new structures, ensuring the Templar architectural legacy became a quiet, enduring thread in the story of Western building. If their knowledge truly diffused across Europe in this way, then the greatest vault holding their secrets was not a hidden chamber, but the collective memory of the master builders who followed them. A retired engineer in rural France might notice a peculiar alignment of stones in a field his family has farmed for generations. A schoolteacher in Scotland, analyzing old maps as a hobby, could spot the faint geometric outline of a structure no record mentions. The hunt for Templar blueprints has exploded beyond the walls of academia, becoming a global, decentralized investigation powered by the collective curiosity of thousands. Online forums and specialized social media groups now function as virtual roundtables, where a post about a strange symbol carved into a church bench in Italy can be analyzed within hours by a retired architect in Canada and a symbology enthusiast in Japan. This is citizen science in its purest form, a vast network of passionate eyes bringing localized knowledge and fresh perspectives to a centuries-old puzzle. These amateur historians often possess an intimate familiarity with their own regional landscape and folklore, noticing subtle terrain features or local legends that might not make it into a formal academic paper. A story passed down in a village about a knight's secret tunnel, often dismissed as superstition, can become a viable lead when cross-referenced with a satellite image showing a straight subsurface anomaly. The scale of this collaboration is its greatest strength. Universities might have the advanced technology, but they rarely have the manpower to examine every single potential site. Crowdsourced projects now harness this collective power, asking the public to help transcribe thousands of digitized manuscript pages or to scan satellite imagery for telltale signs of buried foundations. What might take a small research team years to accomplish can be done in months by a dedicated online community, dramatically accelerating the pace of discovery. Of course, every potential finding from this vast network must still pass through the rigorous verification of professional historians and scientific analysis. Anomalies spotted on a map must be confirmed by ground-penetrating radar. A transcribed manuscript page must be authenticated, yet this process creates a powerful feedback loop where public enthusiasm fuels professional inquiry and academic rigor, in turn, validates and directs the public's efforts. The enduring allure of the Templars proves that the drive to uncover hidden history is a universal human impulse, a shared desire to pull back the curtain on a forgotten world, one collective observation at a time. The dream of finding a lost Templar blueprint often collides with the hard reality of a budget spreadsheet. This is a world where intellectual breakthroughs can be stalled by the simple cost of a plane ticket or the price of renting a ground-penetrating radar unit for a single week. Major grants from national research councils or prestigious foundations are the lifeblood of such work, but they are fiercely competitive. Review panels, tasked with distributing limited funds, frequently prioritize projects that promise definitive, publishable results. A proposal to search for something that might not even exist, based on a fragment of a medieval ledger and a local legend, is a difficult sell against a plan to digitally catalog an already discovered archive. This financial pressure fundamentally shapes the trajectory of the entire investigation. A promising lead on a remote Scottish island might be left unexplored for years, not for a lack of interest, but for a lack of the $20,000 needed to transport a team and its equipment. The hunt is therefore guided by an invisible map of affordability, where the most tantalizing mysteries are sometimes the most financially out of reach. In response, historians have had to become more than scholars. They transform into storytellers and entrepreneurs, writing popular books, giving public lectures, and participating in documentaries. The income and exposure from these efforts are not mere sidelines. They are essential fuel for the core research, turning public fascination into the practical means to pay for a carbon dating analysis or to secure access to a privately held manuscript. Every new piece of equipment, every permit application fee, and every week spent in a foreign archive represents a small victory in a constant, unseen campaign for resources. The search for the Templars' hidden knowledge is, in the modern day, a masterclass in logistics and sheer perseverance. How many vaults remain sealed not by cunning medieval traps, but by the mundane, stubborn obstacle of a funding shortfall? A lone historian working in an archive might spot a curious symbol, but they cannot scan the ground beneath the chapel walls. A geophysicist can produce a stunning subsurface map, but they may not recognize the specific layout of a Templar infirmary. This is why the modern hunt is no longer a solitary pursuit. It is a symphony of expertise, a collaboration between medieval historians, field archaeologists, geophysicists, materials scientists, and digital reconstruction artists. Each specialist brings a unique lens, and together they create a complete picture no single expert could ever achieve. The historian provides the crucial context, interpreting a cryptic phrase in a financial record that suggests a hidden structure. The archaeologist then uses that clue to determine the most promising site for a ground-penetrating radar survey. When the radar reveals a promising anomaly, the materials scientist takes a core sample of the mortar, analyzing its chemical makeup to confirm it matches other known Templar sites from the same period. Finally, the digital modeler incorporates all of this data, the historical reference, the precise dimensions from the scan, and the dated mortar sample, to build a virtual reconstruction of the lost building. This constant, rigorous cross-checking is the engine of discovery. A theoretical blueprint proposed by a historian must withstand the hard, physical truth of the archaeological dig. A stunning radar image of a buried chamber must be validated by the cold, hard facts of radiocarbon dating. Each piece of evidence is vetted and challenged by a different discipline, forging a chain of proof that is incredibly strong. This collaborative model transforms a tempting theory into a verifiable fact. It ensures that the final conclusion is not just a compelling story, but a robust, multifaceted argument built on a foundation of interconnected evidence. The true vault being unlocked is not merely one of stone and hidden scrolls, but one of human knowledge where every locked door requires a different key. The line between a historical secret and a compelling fantasy is often dangerously thin. For the Templars, that line is constantly blurred by stories of the Holy Grail, lost continents, and even technologies far beyond their time. These myths are not harmless. They create a thick fog of speculation that makes it incredibly difficult for serious research to be seen and heard. The historian's first task, then, is not just to search but to sift. They must publicly and patiently address these fantastical claims, not to ruin anyone's sense of wonder, but to protect the integrity of the entire field. Every moment spent chasing a theory about alien architects is a moment not spent analyzing a genuine radar anomaly or a newly discovered property deed. This work of debunking is a form of academic housecleaning. It clears away the debris of fiction so that the fragile architecture of fact can be carefully examined and built upon. When a potential Templar blueprint emerges from a private collection, it is not immediately celebrated as a revelation. It enters a rigorous process of validation. The vellum or parchment is tested to confirm its age. The ink is analyzed, the drawing style is compared to every known example of medieval technical drafting. Most importantly, the design itself is scrutinized. Does it use construction techniques and geometric principles that were actually available in the 13th century? Or does it rely on anachronisms that betray a modern forger's hand? This commitment to evidence is what separates a historical investigation from a treasure-hunting fantasy. It ensures that any conclusion, whether it confirms a long-held theory or shatters it, rests on a bedrock of verifiable data and peer-reviewed methodology. The goal is not to find a thrilling story, but to uncover a provable truth, no matter how ordinary or extraordinary it may turn out to be. Navigating this minefield of misinformation is a constant, unglamorous part of the process, a quiet discipline that makes the moment of genuine discovery truly meaningful. This relentless pursuit demands a personality forged from equal parts patience and passion. The modern Templar hunter is not a treasure seeker with a dusty map, but a scholar with a unique psychological profile. They must cultivate the focused patience of a medieval monk, capable of spending weeks deciphering a single line of faded Latin script in a chilly archive. Their mind must operate with the cold, clear logic of a detective, treating each architectural anomaly and financial record as a piece of evidence in a centuries-old cold case. Yet they also need the physical stamina of a field archaeologist, ready to spend long days under the sun, guiding a ground-penetrating radar unit across uneven terrain. Perhaps most crucially, they require a powerful, disciplined imagination. This is not about fantasy. It is the ability to look at a scatter of stones and visualize the complete fortress, to see a cryptic symbol and perceive the system of thought it represents. They are pattern finders in a world of historical noise. What fuels this immense dedication is rarely fame or fortune. It is a profound, almost reverent respect for the craftsmanship and intellect of the past, combined with a burning, insatiable curiosity. They are driven by the sheer intellectual thrill of the puzzle, a mystery that has challenged minds for 700 years. This work is a marathon of the spirit, demanding immense resilience. For every potential breakthrough, there are a dozen dead ends. A promising radar anomaly turns out to be a natural rock formation. A meticulously translated manuscript leads nowhere. They face skepticism from academic peers and the distracting cacophony of popular myths. Through it all, they must hold fast to a core of absolute integrity. The true hunter must be willing to follow the evidence with ruthless honesty, even when it shatters their most cherished theory. The journey to find a lost blueprint is, therefore, as much an internal quest as an external one. It is a test of character, revealing the deep human yearning to solve a grand mystery and feel a tangible connection to the whispers of a hidden world. The sheer volume of information is the greatest wall any modern researcher faces. We have thousands of scanned manuscripts, terabytes of architectural data, and countless symbols carved in stone across a continent. No single human mind can hold it all at once or see the subtle threads connecting a financial record from Paris to a unique archway in Cyprus. This is where the nature of the hunt is about to transform entirely through artificial intelligence. An AI system could be trained as the ultimate Templar detective. First, it would ingest every known and verified piece of Templar data, from the precise angles of their round churches to the specific word choices in their surviving letters. It would learn their visual language, their architectural ratios, and their financial patterns. Then, the real work begins. This trained AI could sweep through the digitized archives of the Vatican, the national libraries of Europe, and countless municipal records, processing millions of pages in the time it takes a person to read a single document. It would not be reading for content in a human way. It would be a pattern recognition engine operating at a colossal scale. It might flag a property deed from a small town in Italy because the witness signatures contain a specific combination of geometric flourishes that the AI has learned is a Templar signature, even though the document itself makes no mention of the order. It could analyze the ground plans of hundreds of medieval buildings, some Templar and some not, and identify a unique, recurring mathematical sequence in the Templar structures that has been invisible to us. This is not about finding a single needle in a haystack. It is about realizing the haystack itself is made of needles, and the AI can show us the pattern they form. The ultimate goal is to discover the Templar algorithm, the core set of design rules and symbolic principles that governed everything they built. This would be the master key, a digital blueprint for their entire architectural philosophy. With it, we could look at any medieval building and assess the probability it was influenced by Templar knowledge, or even identify the exact location of a lost commandery by analyzing the landscape for that specific geometric signature. The vaults that artificial intelligence could unlock are not just physical chambers hidden underground. They are conceptual vaults sealed by the sheer complexity of data, holding a revolutionary understanding of how the Templars saw and shaped their world. What long-buried connections waiting silently in the data for centuries will finally have a voice? A Templar fortress in the Holy Land stands as a silent witness to a forgotten exchange. While castles in France and England capture our imagination, the Order's true architectural laboratory was often far from European shores. Their network was a global one, with commanderies and fortifications stretching from the rainy hills of Scotland to the sun-baked coasts of Cyprus and the strategic ports of the Levant. This international footprint forces a dramatic shift in the modern search. Historians are now training their satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar on sites in places like Acre in modern-day Israel and Tortosa in Syria, searching for a different kind of blueprint. The prevailing theory suggests that the Templars were not just exporters of European design, but voracious students of the world they encountered. During the Crusades, they came face to face with the sophisticated military architecture of the Islamic world, from formidable concentric castles to advanced water management systems. They witnessed the soaring, mathematically precise domes of Byzantine churches. It is deeply plausible that the master builders of the Order did not see these as foreign and threatening, but as sources of brilliant innovation. What if the famous resilience of a Templar stronghold was not a purely European invention, but a hybrid design? A vaulting technique perfected by Armenian masons or a defensive wall layout learned from Seljuk Turkish fortifications could have been carefully documented, studied, and then incorporated into their own secret schematics. This cross-cultural exchange transforms our understanding of the Order itself. It paints a picture not of isolated, fanatical knights, but of pragmatic and intellectually curious men, willing to adapt the best ideas from their so-called enemies to ensure their own survival and dominance. The Lost Blueprints, therefore, may be the ultimate record of this dialogue. They would not represent a single, pure European style, but a fusion, a unique architectural language born from the collision of East and West. Finding even a fragment of such a plan would be like discovering a lost chapter in the history of innovation, one written in the universal language of stone and geometry. How many other secrets of this cosmopolitan brotherhood are still embedded in the ruins of their farthest-flung outposts? The ultimate prize in this centuries-long quest may not be a physical object at all. Our journey through archives, laboratories, and virtual reconstructions reveals a deeper truth. The hunt for the Templars' lost blueprints has fundamentally reshaped our entire understanding of the medieval world. We now see their structures not as isolated fortresses, but as nodes in a vast, intelligent network. We comprehend their architecture as a complex language, blending sacred geometry with revolutionary engineering. Each technological leap, from ground-penetrating radar to artificial intelligence, gives us not just new data, but a new lens through which to view the past. This continuous search proves that history is never truly finished. It is a dynamic puzzle, with its boundaries expanding every time we develop a new way to see. The real vault we are unlocking is not one of stone and forgotten scrolls, but the vault of human knowledge itself. The expanded wisdom we gain about their craftsmanship, their global connections, and their secretive intellect is the enduring treasure. The mystery of the Templars continues to captivate us because it is a mirror reflecting our own insatiable drive to uncover, to learn, and to connect with the echoes of a hidden world. What part of this enigmatic order fascinates you the most? Share your thoughts on these mysterious knights below, and subscribe to join us on our next journey into the secrets of the past.